it was bad. It was very bad. Okay. What you saw in episode 10, terrible. And I make no excuses for it. I mean, we could talk about generational trauma. We could talk about childhood programming and your upbringing. And we could talk about autism. But ultimately, none of that stuff matters. Okay. I am, at the end of the day, 100% responsible for how I direct my anger and who I direct it on. And in this case, I directed that anger onto my wife, which should never, ever happen. That's on me 100%. And it's hard looking back at this, knowing what I know now. And it's unfortunate that we went on the show not knowing what we know and just...
Yeah. But I think it was these incidents specifically, you saw something like that similar in like 5 that were so alarming to me. These childlike tantrums, really, that I'm just like, what is happening? Because this is not normal. And I get it, we're in a very unique situation, but yeah, this can't be a thing.
Yeah. And
so that's when we sought out help and started with researching. But it was you breaking down these situations that eventually led to your diagnosis. And
again, we don't want to say that the autism is what caused this. I mean,
no.
Certainly the autism plays a role in, getting me to that point where I'm in an explosive, an explosive sort of rage. Mm-hmm. But once that anger appears, well, it's now on me to kind of figure out how to deal with that.
How to manage it.
Like, why am I taking it out on you? That part is not explained by autism. It's not explained by anything. That's a 100% character flaw. And, that's what we worked on over this last year. Yep. And, just to remind you, like, if you're watching this right now, we're sort of talking to you from the future. Yep. Okay. We're 1 year beyond where you're at. You just saw it. So the emotions are very raw and they're very fresh. And so I understand the anger and it's justified 100%. Right. But we're a year past that. Right. We've been doing the work. We found out about, this thing that I have that contributes to it. Right. But is not responsible for it. And so, so just keep that in mind.
But I also want to add to this that, again, I want to remind people this is a reality TV show. You only see certain things. And I feel like without the context, I think we talked about this before, the things you don't see are sometimes even more important than the things that you do see. And you're only giving a tiny glimpse. And unfortunately for us, it has been the very worst of the worst.
And at the end of the day, I said these things.
No, of course. Of course. But without that extra context, not only do we lose our humanity, but you also fail to understand where this anger really stems from.
Yeah.
And that's important.
Yeah.
It's important to understand.
That is an important aspect. Because here's the thing. While autism isn't responsible for why I directed the anger towards my wife, it is one of the main reasons why this anger exists in the first place. And so in order for me to even get into that state, there's usually some sort of trigger that triggers the state of aggression and heightened hostility.
This was the first time that I've seen you this unhinged, angry.
Yeah.
And that's why I think context is so important. And this is not something that happens all the time. I want to make it clear because I feel like people are under the impression that this is who you are at home 24/7.
And also autism is not, it's not like autism and anger necessarily go hand in hand, right? Yeah. So the thing is, like, a lot of people are saying, hey, I know autistic people, they don't act like this. Right. Here's the difference. When you have a situation where you are undiagnosed, you're in a high stress environment,
very unique situation,
exposed to all sorts of triggers, then you are going to get the angry,
the most extreme version of
outburst.
This individual.
Yeah. And that's what revealed itself to us on the show. Again, not saying that that's why I took it out on my wife. That is on me.
That's a different, thing.
Just wanted to,
right.
Distinguish between those two things.
Right. And again, this was a very unique situation. What you see on the show is not real life. It's not who we are as a couple. It is not who Jonathan is at home as a husband and as a father. So I just want to remind people that, again, it is a reality TV show. You're only fed certain content, and just keep an open mind and show a little bit of grace and understanding when it comes to watching these edits.
Although we don't want you to by any means accept.
No, of course
what you're
not.
seeing. I mean, the way I treated her, not acceptable at all.
But again,
to the people that have been in traumatic, abusive relationships, I mean, I know that this must be very tough for you to see, and that's I'm sorry about that. Like, I wish CBS did not edit the show in this way, because I wish, obviously I didn't say these things, but the reason why I reference the editing is because we've heard from multiple teams.
I've had countless people almost actually reach out to me privately.
They didn't show our fights. Why are they showing yours?
Blowouts where people were cussing each other out.
Yeah.
You never saw it.
Even teams like Hung and Chi
saw it.
They apparently had this massive blowout in the final leg of season 32. Sorry for the spoiler. But
you never heard about it.
So it begs the question, why are they showing all of our worst moments? I'm not sure.
And again, when you miss out on the really awesome the humanizing moments, it doesn't really paint a full picture of who we are as individuals, and it's just a bummer.
Yeah, it is for sure.
So yes, I just want to move right into our top 10, and because I think this is the most relevant to what we just talked about, and we're going to take a closer look at the judging that is happening throughout the show. And we're going to reference different legs, but we're going to talk about this specific leg, which was the jousting challenge.
And the reason for this is, people are asking, what is triggering this, right? What's behind the anger, right? What is causing me to get to that point where I'm having these explosive
Well, you're not just upset.
outbursts?
You're literally, like you said, explosive.
Yeah, what's driving this? What is the cause? Well, if we want to talk about the trigger... Well, for this day, it wasn't the cheese. It didn't start at the cheese. It started long before that. Yeah. And that's what we're going to talk about here in number 10.
Yeah. So we head to the roadblock, and it is a head-to-head.
Head-to-head.
And you get dressed, and there's a board, right, with different set of rules that you have to abide by.
Yeah, and you see on your TVs, there's the man there who describes how you're supposed to joust. Right. And he outlines the rules, how you're supposed to stand, where the joust is supposed to be held, and how you can hit your opponent. Right. Fair play rules, right? Okay. And so, okay, cool, right? And then, if you notice, you saw Carson knocks me off, and I lose the joust. And, I mentioned to my wife in this moment, he wasn't really giving me his chest, and I felt like, okay, that kind of sucks because I thought you had to present your chest. Right. And we'll show you the picture where we outline like everything that I thought was not allowed, but apparently was allowed in this case. Yeah. And I'm just kind of standing there, watching and observing. So I'm just, just taking in this information and listening to what he has to say. So my immediate reaction is like, oh, those rules must be just very, they're just going to be applied very loosely. Right. Like they're going to be very loose. As long as you knock
this person down, like, okay, I guess cool. It's all good. It's all fair game.
Right. So yeah, let me just go through them real quick. So first, what happens? Well, Carson, nothing against Carson personally. I'm glad, happy for, I like Carson.
It's not his fault.
Personally. This is about the judging. But Carson, if you notice, he has his joust like up at his chest. So immediately it's like, I don't have a target to hit. And then on top of that, once I get into like fighting distance, he kind of swipes my joust to the side. Right. And then
his upper body turns.
I have no target to hit, mind you. I try to get in and he dodges. Yeah. Right. You're supposed to present your chest. Right. I thought we were supposed to present our chest. Right. And he did not. And then to top it all off, once I lose my balance, right, then he kind of just throws his joust at me. I'm like, okay, what is this? This wasn't in the rules. And so, whatever. Again, we think it's just loosey-goosey. Okay, fine. Right. The rules or whatever.
And he just voices like, that's not what the rules said. And one thing you need to know about Jonathan, if you give him a set of rules, if you give him some sort of instruction, he is going to stand by them. I will follow
the rules to a T. Like, rules are my jam, right? Structure, right? I love it. Like, give me rules, give me structure. Give me a system, and I will excel.
100%.
In this case, somebody didn't follow the stated rules. I said, okay, fine. I guess we're just knocking people off here. Yeah. So I said, okay, fine, whatever. I'm a little upset about that, but let me just go ahead and take it in stride. Mm-hmm. Next, it's me and Josiah, and this is where the trigger happens. Okay. Yeah. I take down Josiah the first time, right? Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't count.
I mean, it doesn't count. They tell me I have to do it again.
Which I was there watching, and I did not see
And so now I'm like, wait a minute.
You didn't see it because it wasn't in the edit.
I just got taken down by someone who followed none of the rules. Literally not one of them. And so why am I being asked to knock down Josiah not once but twice? Right. What didn't you like about the first time? Because you saw it the first time and you didn't see anything.
No, I did not.
That stood out to you as breaking any rules, right?
And the reason why I am watching so attentively, you guys, is because at this point we have seen a pattern. Yeah. A pattern of inconsistencies. And I don't know who's sleeping on what or if it's being done on purpose. It's been a pattern, and immediately PTSD creeps in, and I'm thinking back to leg one.
We think back to leg one. We had a similar situation happen at Cantonese Opera,
yeah.
Right? Where the judging was just kind of like, what's going on here? It's not making sense.
And as you can see, Jonathan also walks off the stage after we don't get our clue for like the fourth or fifth time. And I even shout, what is happening? I am observant. I am watching other teams. We learned the choreography. We're obviously doing the choreography and the singing better. And I don't get my clue because my head is tilted. But I see other people's heads were tilted and they get their clue.
So I'm like, what am I missing? You see other teams tilting their heads all sorts of ways. And it's like, wait a minute. You circled her head for going like this. But everyone else is getting their clues for doing like,
so
what's going on here?
So it's cool when they do it, but not when I do it.
Again, so it felt like whenever we were up there, particularly me, it felt like
it had to be perfect.
The level of scrutiny went way up, and we were being hyper scrutinized at any of the judging challenges.
Yeah.
By the way, I didn't even know the jousting was a judging challenge until they told me to do it again. I'm like, wait a minute.
Where did this judge come from? I didn't know there was a
judging challenge.
Yeah.
Apparently it was because they made me do it again, and they didn't like the way I knocked them off the first time, and so I did it a second time, and I knocked them off again, and thankfully they allowed it the second time, but there was really no perceptible difference between the way I did it the first and second time.
So again, it raises so many questions.
Yeah.
And
it just all feels so arbitrary, doesn't it?
Right. And at this point, we're just hyper aware. It's like 10. There's been many judge challenges. And there's even a recap that someone made, an alumni of The Amazing Race, where they pointed out when in leg 2, there was a drumming challenge. I don't know if you recall, there was a team that got their clue on the first try. But even on the final edit, there's so many mistakes.
Yeah, they give it to a team on the first time, and it's like they clearly don't do it right. I mean, no offense. So what's going on? Make it make sense to me. Because right now it's not making sense.
It doesn't make sense. And it is this stuff that just wears you down psychologically.
It takes a toll on you psychologically.
Because
it does.
I don't know if you remember, but at some point I told Jonathan, I feel like we're not racing against other teams. I feel like we're racing against a system that somehow is not working for us. And we have to just be 3-5 steps ahead and work our ass off to get through each leg. Yeah. And it is so
But it wears down on you. That's it. When you know that you have to be like twice as good as everybody else just to get the same treatment. Yeah. It wears you down, guys.
I understand. And because I knew Jonathan was angry, like literally as we're running to the cheese challenge, he is furious. And at this point,
because it feels like we're being singled out and treated unfairly at this point.
Right. And I feel like at this time it's also like a piling on of the so many times we had to do things over and over again. I mean, don't even let me get started on like 5.
It accumulates.
It accumulates. And so at this point he's just like, why?
It feels like we're being targeted almost. So,
and just to be fair, every time we saw something like this,
we called it out.
I feel like almost every time, unless we were like running on the next place.
Because at first we didn't know if these were honest mistakes.
Yeah.
Or what. But at a certain point, when the mistakes keep piling up, it's like, okay.
You're like, oh, there's a pattern here.
These aren't mistakes anymore. This is a pattern. There's something intentional happening here. And whenever these arbitrary calls got made, mind you, we were always on the losing end of them. It never benefited us. It's like, what's going on? Something's going on here that's it's not exactly above board. I'm gonna say it.
So yeah, you are angry. We're headed to cheese, and then the cheese happens, and
I kind of explode there, right?
Yeah.
Again, totally wrong.
Yeah.
Regardless of what triggered it,
right,
and what brought about the anger. Taking down her, not acceptable.
Because it was my fault. I was adamant about this one cheese because the rind was totally throwing me off. The texture was different. You know, you're indoors and you're outdoors. The texture is going to be different on the cheese. And I was adamant it was yours. And I was like, nope, that's yours. And he kept telling me,
and that's fine.
That's not mine. And I'm like, nope.
In that moment, I could have worked with you better as a teammate.
But because you were angry, you couldn't do that.
But because I was so hyper fixated on what had just happened.
And we talked about this.
It knocks your whole game off.
Right.
Your whole game gets knocked.
We talked about anger rumination and how he's literally not able to.
It's very hard for me to
jump off from this loop. It doesn't matter what I say, you guys. Like, it's literally like no reason. I can't reach you. I can't reach you.
And so I snapped, right? And I did something terrible.
But again, I just feel like as the viewer at home, without this context, Jonathan looks like he's going from 0 to 100.
I look like
over
a crazy person.
Piece of cheese.
I look like a crazy person. And, in some respects, it's crazy to do this. But you don't ever, without understanding the reason why, it
looks out of control.
It looks out of control.
And we explained this.
It's inflammatory and it's infuriating.
Yeah.
And this has real life consequences, guys. Okay. Even though I essentially sign my rights away to CBS when they make the show, they still have an ethical responsibility to show things fairly. And if
it needs to be balanced. If you only keep the negative and take my positive out, that's only telling me one thing. And that is it's like a malicious edit.
Yeah.
And again, we always voice these concerns. So at this point, it almost makes me feel like it's retaliation for being honest.
It feels like they're trying to destroy us.
I feel like instead of taking it as constructive feedback, we're being punished for being honest. And I don't know how much clearly to say that. Yeah. Your reactions to the cheese and all of that is all on you. Yeah. And I can attest that Jonathan has worked on this so much. But that edit and all the things that they did, that is on them. Yeah. And so far, again, the final edit is only telling me that they chose to take this route to paint you as this evil individual that is out of control.
Here, and they just went too far with it, guys. I'm sorry. I had to say something because they went too far with it. Okay, they didn't need to take it to this level. But,
again, I've gotten so many messages, you guys, from multiple people saying like, I can't believe
why are they doing this to you?
Like, what?
They took out my fights. Hey, I just want to know why we're getting treated differently. That's it.
Why us?
Anyways,
what is it about us?
We got to move. Let's. We don't want to go too long here. So that's judging, right?
I think we can always talk more in detail.
We'll come back to it if we need to.
For 9.
Number
okay.
9.
Let's go back to Italy.
Slow living in Italy. So the leg starts in Naples, Italy, and we rip open our clue and find out we're going to Strasbourg.
Yes. And we run to a nearby travel agency. Yeah. And oh my gosh, you guys.
And the people there, we notice are working a bit slowly. They're not working
very chill.
Very fast. Right?
I imagine.
And after 9, we come to this conclusion. I think people in Italy just move at a different pace.
Right. So fun fact, and I actually haven't mentioned this. So when we left Castel St. Elmo, I went to the ticket booth to get our tickets to the funicular to go back down. And of course, Han and I run up to the counter and we're like, we need 4 tickets.
Yeah, I remember that.
And then he's like, calm down.
He said it just like that. And this girl, look, you don't see her this. They're not showing. She's almost
telling me to calm down when
don't tell me to
racing?
Calm down. I said, babe,
I'm trying to escape these super fast teams. Yeah. And I literally was like, I cannot calm down. I need 4 tickets. We're in a race.
And then look, it happened again. So we get our tickets at this travel agency, and then we go to the airport, and it happened again. There's a man working at the booth. And so here's what happened. We were actually planning, we had saw that there was a flight available.
Just one. Yeah.
Just one.
And we had such a lead, we could actually make it.
There's a flight available that left before the flight that we actually took. And we raced to the airport to try to get this one flight. Yeah. Try, you got to get any edge you can against these really fast
teams. So again, we run up to the counter to check in or try to, switch our ticket there.
To try to secure these tickets.
What does he say again?
And he said he starts
slow down. And he's like laughing. He's like laughing. No, he's literally laughing at us.
He's laughing. He laughs at us. Here's the thing, guys. Italy, great place to visit. Terrible place to race.
If you're racing.
If you're in a rush, you don't want to be in Italy because these people cannot be rushed.
No. They are not going to go out of their way to speed up for you.
Their time just runs slow over there. Mm-hmm. So don't try to rush anybody in Italy.
Yes. Anyways. And so he was like, he's laughing at us and I'm just like, ugh. So he finally checks us in. He's slowly putting this tag on your backpack.
And then we race to the gate. Like, thank you, sir. We race to the gate.
And they just finished boarding.
They just finished boarding.
Like what is it called? Like the bridge is still attached to the plane.
And then we talked to the guys.
But the gate is closed.
The attendants working there. Can we get in?
Like,
Can we get on the flight? No.
Remember you Zootopia?
No urgency. It reminded us of Zootopia, the DMV, the sloth that works at the DMV in Zootopia.
Just very chill.
Italy feels a lot like that.
Yes,
they're just going on their own pace.
Great for vacationing.
Great for downtime.
And honestly, I envy.
Not great for racing.
I envy that because, as you know, here in the States, we're just constantly on the go, and we have way too many things on our plate.
It's like a rat race over here.
Yeah,
different over there. Let's move on. Right, we got it.
But yeah, anyway, so yeah, we were supposed to be on that first flight. It would have been nice to have that lead. It would have had like a 4-hour difference on the other teams, but that didn't work out. So we missed our flight, number 8.
We eventually got on the flight with the other teams. They're surprised to see us because they all assumed we caught that first flight, which we did not. I
was furious, by the way. I was so like all of those events. I was just so like worked up. I was like, I'm just going to go do research. And we had some pizza before we left, right?
Yeah.
And then we take our flight to Frankfurt.
Right. Yeah. And so we go from Frankfurt, we run, right?
To the train station.
A train station in Frankfurt. Yeah. And that's
massive
where we realized, oh my gosh, huge train station, beautiful train station, actually. Like one of those
really
beautiful.
Cool. Like the ones you see in the movies.
Yeah. I wish I got more shots of the interior of the train station. It was
gorgeous. The ceiling was beautiful.
It was beautiful. And so there are delays. We get there and there are delays. Many delays. Multiple delays.
Multiple times.
We were supposed to be on the train to Strasbourg that, like, I think, what time was it?
It was going to be that evening. So we were supposed to take a train from Frankfurt to Offenburg and then from Offenburg to Strasbourg.
Yeah.
A lot of burgs. And so... yeah, so we missed that second connection. So we end up in Offenburg at around midnight.
And it's like the middle of the night. You were dropped off at this German town of Offenburg in the middle of the night.
It was totally your vibe, though.
It was my vibe, but guys, it was like a seedy looking part of town. You had like graffiti everywhere. You had vagrants kind of walking around.
Yeah, it had a lot of character. We're from Pomona. We're used to character.
Speaking of those, do you remember the security guys?
Oh my gosh. Shout out to Chris.
And the whole security team because...
right, but he's the one that was with us, so I just remember his demeanor.
It felt like a very unsafe area, but when you're on the race, there's a retinue of security guys that are with you wherever you go.
Always.
And whenever, like... because you have to picture the scene, right? We're just these American tourists in this German town, the seedy part of Offenburg, and there's guys and girls with expensive camera and sound equipment. So some guys start eyeing us, like it's like, oh, this is gonna get weird. I see, but the security guys, when a person would even like kind of get within like maybe 30 feet of us,
this is crazy.
They would puff out their chest and just literally, I'm not joking, they would get this close to them like this, and then the guys would just kind of, oh, sorry. And it just kept happening. I was like, this is hilarious. It was the coolest. It was one of the coolest things I ever saw them do. It was honestly like, it was like
from
Liam
out of a
Neeson
movie.
Yes, like they looked like Liam Neeson.
Exactly what it was like. And trust me, you don't want to mess with these guys.
Do you want the smoke? Like, you want some smoke or not? And
come at me.
Trust me, nobody wanted any smoke. So shout out to security for keeping us safe in Germany.
They were awesome.
Always felt safe on the race.
And anyways, so fun.
We're in Offenburg, and again, we were supposed to be in Strasbourg at this time. But because of the delays, we had to bunk in Offenburg. And it was weird because
so we had to essentially find somewhere to sleep.
Yeah.
And so half the teams go to a hotel, like a nearby, like it looked like a bed and breakfast, but they couldn't house all of us because it was such a last minute.
So the other half of us had to go to like a Holiday Inn.
Go to Holiday Inn.
I didn't know they had those over there. And so let's go here.
Anyway, so we slept only like 3 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't get a good night's sleep. No. Woke up. They gave us a banana and it's like, all right, go race.
Bye.
Now, when we met up with the other teams,
they had coffee on their head.
They had like fancy lattes. I'm like,
I've never been so jealous in my life. I really needed some coffee that morning.
We were tired as hell that morning. So it was definitely not a great night of sleep for us. Anyways, number 6, speed bump. What is this about? Speed bump. For those that don't know.
Yes. So historically, on most seasons of the Amazing Race, if a team gets saved by a non-elimination leg during one of the legs of the race,
there's some sort of penalty usually,
and this is served on the next leg, and it's usually like a challenge before a challenge, like a mini challenge, just something to slow you down.
That's what a speed bump is, right? And so we were kind of worried for Hannah and Holden going into this leg because we like Hannah and Holden,
they're friends.
And we were like, oh my god, what is the speed bump going to be? And, so we ran this leg kind of, we were in Strasbourg, we're in the leg. And I didn't even
pay attention. Again, we had a lot going on. There was a lot of things I was focused on.
Which we just kind of so we don't know if they're doing a speed bump or not. We got home and we realized we watched it on TV. There's no speed bump. That's good.
Well, actually, someone mentioned it to me on the race, like, oh, did you know they didn't get a speed bump? And I was like, oh, I I didn't even bother asking.
I thought maybe it was edited out.
Good for them.
You know what, though? It would have been cool, though, since we were at the cheese shop. Like, wouldn't it have been fun, especially after
Poland
what Han
is
said,
lactose
right?
intolerant?
If he's lactose, imagine if they said, here, eat this, like, block of cheese.
Oh, a pound of cheese.
And just imagine them just kind of
hilarious.
wolfing that cheese down and then just, like, just going off in the car
brutal.
the whole way to the pit stop. That would have been fun to see. So, I don't know. I kind of wish they had a speed bump, but
I don't know.
it's all good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
a speed bump would have been tough for them, though. In that leg, it would have been tough.
Yeah.
Because everybody at this point is really good. Guys, another water challenge. Bro, I'm over the water. This is a 6th water challenge.
Did we already surpass season 31? Because I think that was the closest one to
31, I remember there was a lot of water.
Yeah.
And I think we're at least tied. Maybe we surpassed 31.
Yeah.
And the reason we keep bringing this up, guys, is because, like, I know it doesn't sound, if you swim and you're comfortable in the water, it doesn't sound like a big deal to you. But now picture if, like, swimming in the water is your worst fear.
It's like if you were afraid of heights.
Imagine if you're afraid of heights.
You just have to do it over and over again.
Of course, you know, if you go on the race, you're probably going to have to face heights at some point.
At least once. Yeah.
Either whether you're skydiving, bungee jumping, or swinging down a gorge, you know there's a faint possibility that you may have to face your worst fear.
But let's be real. This is a little excessive.
Imagine doing that 6 times. That's what it was like for us. It's like, again.
I was so glad, though, that I had finished my roadblock counts.
So with me,
this was something you had to do.
I was like, thank God. Because when we ripped open the clue, thankfully, we didn't have to decide who did it. Because she had reached her roadblock limit. And so it automatically fell to me. And thank God it did, because oh my God. Which
is really funny, because anytime we were like inland, I just knew like, oh, okay, this is something that I will do because we're inland. This was inland, and it's almost like they're like
looking for water.
Where's the body of water here?
Bro, it's like we go to the desert, they're looking for water. We go to France, where's the water at? They're like going out of their way to put water. It's
what
like,
is this?
enough already.
H2O edition?
It's H2O edition. Okay, at this point, I'm just going to call it season 37 H2O edition.
But you know what? I did feel bad for you because, listen, it takes Jonathan at least 30 minutes to acclimate himself when he goes into the pool.
We have an HOA pool here, and we take the girls there, and she laughs at me because when I get into the pool,
we actually harass him.
It actually takes me up to 20 to 30 minutes just to get my full body into the water.
He goes like inch by inch. I start with my
ankles, and then I get up to my knees.
Baby.
Hey, but you know,
but now I know
hypersensitivity.
This is wild.
That cold water,
the cold temperature. He's like no. So anyway, I saw this guy on the boat, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if he gets knocked down, he has to go into that cold water because there's no way this water's warm. Of course,
it was cold as hell, and it was like a shock to the system. I was like, oh, there have been entire seasons of the race where you never even see contestants get on the water. So at this point, I'm thinking like, why?
It just came like such a surprise.
Why on this season? Why you wait for me to get on to do all this water?
Especially because we watched so many, and I'm like, okay, what could we possibly do? So again, me preparing for the race did not involve going to the beach, doing all these extra crazy, or paying to go do, I don't know, the things that I've never done, like water sports.
Yeah, and we saw in Lake 5 just how much of a barrier water is for us. I mean, it is our kryptonite. Again, water is our weakness.
I've spoken with this with a girlfriend of mine who doesn't know how to swim, and she's just kind of like, we never had the resources.
Also Hispanic, right?
She's also Hispanic,
right.
Of course. And she's like, we never had the resources. So if it costs money, if it required equipment, we didn't do it. And then, with me and my family, we didn't go on vacation, so we didn't go to the beach. So again, if it required equipment, lessons, or something you have to pay for,
nope.
It was out of the question.
Because if your grandparents didn't swim, then chances are your parents didn't swim.
My mom doesn't know how to swim. Exactly.
So that's passed down generationally.
Right.
And there's issues with access.
Right. And that's why I nearly drowned when I was a kid.
Yeah. And so
but yeah,
it was tough for us. But I'm proud to say that you overcame.
You're not going to see me getting into the ocean water again, though.
And I'm not terrified of the water, but I'm not exactly comfortable in the water either.
Yeah.
But I'm proud that we were able to deal with that because that's not something that we were expecting at all.
No, not at all. Okay, so moving on to Express Pass. So Josiah and Alyssa won the Express Pass during like 8 when they had to walk on coals.
Yes. And it expired in leg 10.
In this leg.
They had great restraint. They did not use it in leg 9.
Yeah.
And they decided to use it in leg 10. But where would they use it? That was the question. I had texted Josiah because I saw them just like agonizing over this decision in this episode. And I texted him, I was like, bro, I can relate. I know exactly what you're going through.
We've been there.
There's something about when you have that Express Pass where your decision making just sort of falls apart. And is something about having that kind of power in your hand. It almost becomes a burden in a way.
Well, because you're constantly over analyzing when will be the perfect time to use it.
Nobody wants to waste it, right?
That is the number one fear. And so when you decide to use it, you're just gonna be decisive. You got to do it quick.
So it's a lot of power in your hands, right?
Yeah.
And so I would compare it almost to like the ring of power in Lord of the Rings. You have this power in your pocket, yes. but it's also a burden because there's so much power associated with it. And so, yeah, you see
you're
them
constantly thinking about it.
At the cheese, they kind of go back and forth. A lot of indecision there. Ultimately, they use it at the route info.
Well, I remember when they got to the cheese, because we were already there. Han and Holden, you and I, we looked back at them. They're like, "This will be a good one to use it on." Like, we already tried it twice. Like, you saw me use it.
You saw me say it to them right there. I said, "This would be a good task to use the Express Pass."
But I get it because using it in a route info seems kind of silly,
right? It seems counterintuitive. Like, why would I use it on a route info? Route info is supposed to be easy,
right?
But this one was not. This one was actually tricky.
Remember how much crap we got for using it on a roadblock? So it's like you're always trying to do the right thing. But you just got to follow your intuition.
At the end of the day, you can use an Express Pass on a roadblock, a route info, or a detour.
Right.
I think the main key is just be decisive when you use it.
Yeah, and decide quickly. Yeah.
Because you saw what happened when there's that indecision. That's when, bad things happen.
Yeah. But hey, at least they saved some minutes.
Yeah,
and they were able to kind of move on. 100%.
At the end of the day, it worked. And in the entire history of the race, because a lot of talk about wasted Express Passes this season. Right. And the whole history of the race, there's only been one time that anybody
has wasted
an Express Pass. And that was when it just wasn't used and they were eliminated. So
crazy.
If you use it, whether it's to win or to survive, that's a valid use of the Express Pass.
You used it 100%. So, it was not wasted.
In defense of design and Alyssa there.
Yeah.
Anyways, number 3.
Anyway, a great partner.
A great partner. Who are we talking about? We're talking about you. I had called you a terrible partner, which is inexcusable and awful. And, we talked about that. But in actuality, you were a great partner. Not only, look, I want to say out of everybody that was on this race, nobody came further outside their comfort zone than my wife, right? She comes from nothing, essentially. I mean, she has not been exposed to any of this stuff, and she's never been placed in a competitive environment. And here we are on the Amazing Race, right? A hyper competitive environment, full of a lot of impressive people. Right? And she's keeping up with them. And not only that, she has to deal with this, right? She has to deal with my unpredictability and my anger and all those things, and she is just taking it all in stride. So shout out to the MVP of Team Fast and Furious, Anna Towns.
Thank you.
Golf clap. Anyways, anything else you want to add to that? Or?
No.
Thank you for putting up with me.
Well, I do want to add something because I feel like the easier thing for me at that moment would have been to just be like, you know what? You can't talk to me like that and walk away. Or you know what? You take over.
Like, why didn't you fight back? A lot of people, because I know you at home, like it was very different.
I'm not that passive,
spicy.
you guys.
No.
And what I think happened, it's kind of hard to understand because one, I knew where the anger stemmed from. I knew it wasn't me.
You saw
I witnessed these events.
You saw what triggered it.
I know what triggered it. So that is why I'm
you
not
did
like
not see that.
It wasn't a personal attack on me.
Oh my God, I just realized that.
That's
why you knew what triggered it. It wasn't me.
Yes. It wasn't the cheese. It wasn't me being adamant about the cheese.
Moment. Wow.
And that's one. Two, whatever you were giving at that moment, it wasn't your 100% or the 50% where I needed you to be because you just had, I don't know what was going on with your brain. I couldn't get past it. I couldn't reach you.
Yeah, I was unreachable. Yeah.
I'm going to say you were at 10% only because you didn't like quit and walk away. Mm-hmm. But I had to literally dig so deep within me to pull that extra 40% to meet you where you were at. And to me, guys, that is an example of what marriage is supposed to be, for better or for worse.
That's real, yeah.
When I've been at my worst, you have been there for me. Mm-hmm. Lucky for me, you didn't get to see that. But unfortunately for you, you're seeing all of Jonathan's.
You're seeing all of my worst moments.
The worst of the worst
moments that I've ever had. You're seeing those.
Which is absolutely insane.
Yeah.
And so
no mercy was shown. There's been no mercy on this edit.
I mean, if you had any way to control your condition, you would have had the awareness to at least be like, oh shoot, there's a camera there. You couldn't even do that. No. And so I had to meet you where you were because guys, we are in this race
We're on a mission.
For $1 million. We came here to win $1 million.
We're here for our family. And so I understand what you're saying. Like, you can't just abort the mission because I'm like losing my
pride is not bigger than that, or my ego.
And to your credit, like, you held us up in those times. You kept us going. And that's why I said you're a great partner.
That's what a teammate does. Yeah. And I just want
I basically given up on myself and on you and on my partner. And that's just insane. That's just crazy. But in those times, you lifted us up 100%. Yeah.
And another thing, like they asked us just about in every leg, like, oh, what would you do with $1 million? What does $1 million mean to you? And for us, I mean, for me, it's just an amount of money that I could never even imagine. Like, I came from a very, very poor family. $1 million will mean we can invest and start a business, set up our daughters for a better future and their kids, and help my cousins and help your parents so your dad could finally retire, Help my parents, like, pay for their house so they don't have to work so much. Like, it was beyond us and this and me and him. This was a bigger mission, and I was going to do whatever it took to complete that mission, you guys. That is, like, what true grit looks like. Anyway.
Lost in Strasbourg, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, I was a terrible partner, terrible teammate. I'm supposed to be navigating, but I'm not. She's doing both. She's doing double duty because I have abandoned her, essentially. And we get lost, of course, right? So...
Thankfully, like, we had an automatic car, because if I would have been driving stick, it would have been nearly impossible, and I don't know what would have happened.
Eventually, we get lost 3 times here.
3 times.
We missed a turn on a roundabout. We end up at a nail salon. Then we end up at a shoe store. We asked for directions again, and when we went in there,
this was really funny.
Actually, the guy, like, we come in, and there's a couple of people in there shopping. We approach a man and his wife.
Yeah,
I presume
he sees these Americans coming in with the camera.
Our sound guy. And he says, "Are you famous?" And oh my God, that turned out to be extremely prescient because wow, I am kind of famous now, aren't I? For all the wrong reasons. I'm infamous now. But God, was he onto something? Yeah, turns out that would be true. I would
and
be famous in a
who
few
would have
months.
thought there was just a million roundabouts?
A lot of roundabouts.
I was so sick of these roundabouts. At some point, I was like, another one, and another one, and another one.
Anyways, we get to the detour.
Eventually.
Finally.
We were the last team to get to a detour, you guys.
We didn't know. Oh, my God.
We were the last team.
God, the whole day you kind of felt like you're at risk. You always felt like you were at risk.
Because there's not that many teams anymore.
Not that many. You always felt at risk.
Yeah.
But we did not know how bad it was. Like, I did not know Mark and Brett were in second.
Especially because we hadn't seen Mark and Brett for a minute. Yeah.
When I found out they were in second, and we were last.
We actually didn't find that out until, like, we watched the show.
We were last, and it just shocked me to see. Oh my God, we almost went home.
So when we got to the laundry detour, that is why you asked, like, where's Carson?
I said, where's Carson? I want to know because at this point you have no sense of where the other teams are really.
Right.
Because you don't know if teams are gone.
And also, we didn't know Josiah and Alyssa used their express pass at the route info. We just assumed they used it at the detour.
They're also
so they're gone.
I assume Carson at the pit stop. Josiah and Alyssa, they've checked in. They used their express pass.
Right. And maybe even Mark and Brett.
And so I just see Han and Holden.
Gone.
I don't know where Mark and Brett are.
So I'm thinking, as much as I love my Han and Holden,
I think we gotta blow through this.
It was like it's them or us.
And so we go there. We have kids, right? And the task is washing clothes. So we obviously pick, laundry. So
which is really funny.
We get in there, we bust it out real quick, like bing, bang, bong, in, out. Well, I think we're in and out like 25 minutes.
No,
maybe.
It was less than that.
100%. We knocked that thing out so fast, guys.
I know.
Yeah.
It's funny because they had a lot of white onesies, and I'm that kind of girl that just throws everything into the laundry and hoping all the stains come off. Jonathan will prepare and remove stains of all clothing very meticulously.
I'm very methodical about everything. I mean, you know what it is.
Exactly. No? But he removes every stain. He'll bring out the baking soda. Anyway, so it was right down his alley to make sure it was perfect. He's like, quality check.
My clothes were pristine. Okay.
And we knew, again, in judging challenges, we can't afford to be lazy and forget the details. It has to be just right. So every stain needed to be 100% gone.
So we get it checked. We get it on our first time. And look, love Hannah Holden, like she said, but we get into that car. I'm like, we got to beat them. It's business right now.
I know.
Yeah, because I feel like we're fighting for last right now. We get to the French countryside now.
And then we see the arrows to where to park.
Kind of directing us to where we need to go. And we get to the pit stop.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. Number 1, no fue penal.
Oh.
What does that mean?
No fue penal.
That means no penalty.
This is from the 2014
World Cup, right?
World
One of
Cup.
my favorite World Cups. It was in the
With my
Mexico
team,
versus Netherlands game. My favorite player, one of my favorite players of all time, Arjen Robben, he plays for the Netherlands.
Yeah.
And he was going in, making a drive towards the goal.
And very dramatically
and
false.
He did this very dramatic kind of fall, and they called a penalty on him. But when they went to the replay, it looks like he wasn't touched. It would look like he was simulating. And so a lot of Mexicans started saying, like, there was a slogan that they...
Yeah, we made pinatas out of it.
It was like, no fue penal, like no penalty. Anyways, what are we talking about?
What are we talking about? Well,
we pull up to the marked parking, right?
Yeah.
The marked parking where we're supposed to park. And we see only one car. I'm thinking, no way.
It was insane. We were like, no
we
way
just
we're
got lost
second.
3 times.
What?
Are we second? Like, oh my God. It's a miracle. So we run up to the pit stop, the mat.
Yeah.
And then I see Josiah and Alyssa standing
on the
on the side. I said, oh my God, they got a penalty.
We're thinking they're waiting on a penalty.
They didn't park they got a penalty.
Right.
And so I'm like, are they going to get eliminated today?
It was shocking, you guys.
But we get there and Phil says you're in third. I said, oh.
So they're in second.
They must have just finished their interview. But I said, like, where's your car?
We had no idea where this car was until we watched the show.
It was really on like the hillside. And then ran up the hill. It was hilarious.
Because they can. They are super fit and they're like great athletes. But so it's funny. So anyway, so I went back to my notes because I just happened to write absolutely everything down. And
well, before I think we were surprised because in the past, like, people have been penalized for not parking in marked parking. I believe.
Right.
Correct me if I'm wrong. If you're like a hardcore Tar fan.
Yeah, please.
But I think it's supposed to be a penalty. That's what I thought, at least. But anyway, we were wrong. It was not a penalty in this case.
Well, my note said to park in the marked parking area. So I was shocked.
Listen, talk about good luck. Jesus, that was some great luck. Because if they got a 30-minute penalty, which is that traditional penalty for not parking in the marked parking. I don't know what time
Mark and Brett got there, but there would have been
You saw the time. They would have been eliminated.
That's insane.
If they had a 30-minute penalty applied, they would have went home.
So again,
that would have been just shocking. Imagine going home after using the express pass.
Yeah.
Whoa, that would have been like iconic. Very interesting though.
Yeah, but
they lucked out. Again, good luck, bad luck. It hits all teams different.
100%.
And so that brings us to the end, right?
Part. Yes. Yeah. Where are we going next? We're going to Porto.
Going to Portugal. In
a beautiful place, by the way.
Beautiful. Just, I mean, oh my God. Jaw-droppingly beautiful.
The number 2 on our list.
And you see in the preview, I can talk about this because it showed it. We're going at it. I mean, what a shame. We're in this beautiful, absolutely beautiful city, and we're going at it, man. And obviously, it's probably my fault again. I'm assuming. I don't remember exactly how things went down. I'm assuming it's my fault again, guys. So expect some.
And again, the stress at this point is the penultimate leg.
I mean,
it is beyond. You see it in everybody's face. It's
Everybody's
not just
stressed.
us.
Yeah.
Everybody's face.
Right.
We look stressed.
This is it.
Maybe not Carson and Jack.
No, and God, they were always so good about staying positive and happy-go-lucky the whole time.
Well, let me tell you, if I went on the race with my best friend, we would probably be happy all the time too. But
yeah, and then we're the fastest team. It kind of helps. But anyways, we're done. Right?
Stick around for our next recap for leg 11. Yeah.
11. See you guys.
Bye.